It's very hard. The Boers have developed a method of farming in the last 100 years.
How do you justify that?
Well, because I just told you, and you agreed with me. I asked a question, which I think I knew, and you affirmed it. The black South African farmers are not nearly as productive as the equivalent Boer farmers.
Ladies and gentlemen, the video I'm about to play for you is the first time I'm watching it. It's a debate between Charlie Kirk and some students at the Oxford Union. This is a chamber at the Oxford University where they just debate stuff. And you know what? I'm always here for it. So today I thought I should watch this video together with you. If you like this content, please hit the sub button, hit the like button, open those notifications so that you are notified every time we upload a new video. And ladies and gentlemen, as well, that join button if you really want to support this channel and you are really a fan of this channel. Please join us down there and you'll get some packs from this channel, exclusives from your boy. Stop playing with us. Let us get into the video without any further ado.
I want to take it back on South Africa. You did talk about South Africa, and obviously the Expropriation Act of 2024 is kind of a really big issue. I think to start off from the outset, I should mention that I also don't agree about the more terrible slogans, cue the Boers. Obviously, I think is terrible. But I think it's key to have context where the Expropriation Act is coming from. And I think drilling down a little bit, I want to pick your thoughts based on the fact that white South Africans only account for about 10% of the population, and they own about 72% of private land in South Africa. And I think it's always really good also to pretty much draw back a little bit from the historic background behind it. I think it goes back to about 1913, the Native Acts land, which severely disproportionately...
I think ladies and gentlemen, I need to chip in just right there when he says white people make up 10% of the population and they own 70% of the land. I think there's always a misconception in terms of land ownership. The 70% of the land that white people own is of productive land. Actually, in South Africa, the government owns majority of the land. So that is fact. And
discriminate against black South Africans from owning land in South Africa. And that's what's caused much of the disparity that we see economically. So I wanted to find out from you, what are your thoughts? And obviously, Trump administration has really been big on what's going on in South Africa at the minute and the act itself that they enacted. So do you think it's a moral obligation that obviously you're talking about that the land that was expropriated back in the days historically, and that was a colonial endeavor altogether, does that land need to be returned to black South Africans?
No, but they've already, so I know dangerously little about this. And so, again, what I said on stage is what I know, so I'm going to have to understand. I'm an American. I'm just trying to educate myself on UK politics, and so you will probably know more about this than I will. But is it not true, and you can correct me, in the last 20 years, they've tried some form of reparations with black South Africans?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that correct? Maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, there's been, but it's not worked. So the
BBE that's right. Well, so time out. So wait, so taking stuff from one group and giving it to blacks doesn't work?
Well, it does work, but I'll give you context as well.
Well, you just said it doesn't work.
I'll give you context.
Yourself, so educate me. I don't know enough, but you just contradicted yourself. You went from it doesn't work to it does work, so please.
I'll give you context as well. So what they did is they did have a program called the Black Empowerment Economic Program. And pretty much what they did is for every corporation, they would have to incorporate black people within it. But that's not worked really well. And what we've seen over time is that a lot of black people that have been part of those organizations have only been a minority. So pretty much, as you mentioned, you talked about DEI. So it's just pretty much checking a box, right? You have a black person within the senior management group, but it's only probably two people they like. And that's pretty much it. But the majority of black South Africans...
Yeah. There he's mentioning facts. Facts, BEE only works for only a minute few in South Africa. Only small few people like your Ramaphosas who've never really owned real business or started any real businesses. Really, it only works for them. Majority of us, we have to beg for jobs to them, from them. We have to carry the right membership card in order to get a job from these people. And they are our public servants. They work for us in government, but we have to beg them for jobs. as it is, over 60% of the youth in South Africa is unemployed. And, it's a composition of youth with skills and those without skills. It's crazy. It is crazy in South Africa. You cannot get a job anywhere, bro.
That do not own any land, because obviously the historic context that I gave cannot pretty much be able to earn a good living, because, with land also comes economic opportunity, and that's been the biggest disparity in South Africa.
And excuse my ignorance on this, from what I understand though, is that the land owned by Black South Africans is actually not as productive as those owned by the Boers. Is that correct?
Well, at the minute, 72% of private land, agricultural land, is owned by white South Africa.
No, I
So
understand
only a
that.
minority.
So that's a very good distinction. Productive agricultural land, majority of it is owned by the whites, who form 10% of the population. However, a lot of white people do not own the land. It's also a small percentage of white people who own the land. Of that 10% of the white people in South Africa, it's a small percentage of those who own productive agricultural land. A lot of white people are actually just middle class people living somewhere in Cape Town, Joburg, or somewhere in a random township. A small town, not a township precisely, but a small town. You get what I'm saying? Very, very wonderful distinction that they're making right there.
Fair enough, but the 28% when compared to Boer-run farms are actually not as productive, because running a farm in South Africa is very difficult.
Yes.
Am I correct by saying that?
Well, context again.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm clear that actually running a farm for over 100 years is actually really impressive.
100%.
Yeah, so we agree on
Yes,
that.
we agree on that.
So thank you, because I don't know enough about this, but I do think that that's important to note, that even the Black South Africans that own land, it actually is not as fruitful or has the same yields as those that have been doing it for over 100 years, in a time when there's actually food instability in the region and in South Africa.
But obviously, what I'll say is, over time, if, say, you did have an act that expropriates land from Black South Africans, you need to build capacity over time. And I think the government is doing that for the minority Black people that own agricultural farmland in South Africa. And they've been doing that. But also, we can't deny the fact that if you control supply chains for over a century, right, then it means that you pretty much control the economy, right? So how best do you think? Obviously, the land was taken from Black people, and South Africans, white South Africa has been pretty much, improving the economic outcomes over time. What do you think is the best way to break even in that sense?
Fair question.
And I just want to make one point to you. If obviously you look at key philosophers as well, like Robert Nozick, for instance, he talks about equality in terms of acquisition, as well as the process through which you acquire that land, and obviously correcting the injustice that comes out of it. So what would be your thoughts on that?
I'm not familiar with the philosopher you mentioned. Who was the name again?
Robert Nozick.
Okay.
He's a very prominent philosopher.
I'll look into it. Sure. Thank you for that. I don't know enough about South Africa to suggest anything. Here's what I could tell you, that race-based politics is really bad. I know this because I'm living it in my country. And I think that South Africa should get away from race obsession and should get towards something that is rooted in merit and empowerment.
Let your patriotic values guide how you invest
Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we've been saying over here, really.
your money and save for your future. With Monorail's Patriot Portfolio, your investment
Of course,
dollars
Charlie
get
is
out
going to
of
sell us
global
something.
Africa's what, 75% Black? Is that correct? 80%? Maybe
Yeah,
more?
that's right.
Right. And so explain to me, like post-apartheid,
Yeah, and that makeup is also made up of illegal foreigners from Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Zambia, Mozambique, Namibia, but everybody and their mama is here illegally, bro.
outside of the land ownership, maybe there's a business element. Why is it that once apartheid was removed, why Black South Africans were not able to see their material economic net worth go up in the last 20 or 30 years? What do you think there's any, and maybe I don't know enough, are there any cultural inhibitions of a defeatist attitude that has basically, let's say, infected the minds of poor South Africans last 20 years that feel as if they can't accumulate wealth? Do you think that plays a factor?
Yeah, I think what's really infected Black South Africans is pretty much going back what we're talking about. Obviously, from the colonial background that I just gave you.
No, you can't blame colonialism, bro. These guys, you see, he's from the UK. He's gonna want to tell us that the reason why we are still left behind is because of colonialism, as if at some point in history half the whole world was not colonized. I mean, what is this? What is this? Japan, after they got bombed, after they got, bro, it was bad what happened in Japan, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and them. Dry lands, you can't grow nothing. Look at Japan today. They're not crying that somebody bombed us. The United States bombed us. We're gonna cry about colonialism, bro. Come on, guys. Come on.
And we see a lot of like neocolonialism. You control the supply chains, and you own 72% of agricultural farmland. How do you expect the majority black people to improve their lives?
Is truly the wealth right now today in South Africa in land, really? When we talk about it, when we reflect on it, truly and honestly, I don't think, land does have value, but I don't think as many South Africans want to make money through land ownership, As you grow older in your career, maybe you can aspire towards buying the land, because really owning land is proper. But to say we should eradicate our individual property rights in South Africa and redistribute the land, that is going to upset private investment in South Africa, already in a country that doesn't have jobs. That's what you want to do. I mean, where is the logic and the sense in that, ladies and gentlemen? Honestly, man.
In the outcomes, when you pretty much control everything.
Enough. And so this is a sloppy but best example I can give. Is that fair? I'll do it. So just grant me some mercy here. What percentage of American land is owned by Asians?
Not sure.
Yeah, less than 3%. They are the richest racial group in America. So maybe land ownership isn't the only thing that matters to get wealthy.
Well, I do recognize that a lot of companies now.
Hold on a second. Forget the supply chain, forget the land. Land is basically all owned by white people in America, okay? Yet Asians, Indians are by far the richest group. So why is it that this particular group that happens to own the land and the supply chains, and we've admitted it's very hard to run this land, very hard to run this idea of farming in South Africa, it feels to me, I could be wrong, that it's a group of resentment-driven politics towards a group of people that own land instead of opportunity and empowerment-based politics, talking to the black majority about how they could build a better life for themselves instead of taking away other people's stuff.
Honestly, that's what's up.
Well, maybe the question could be as well, why do you think white South Africans that pretty much acquired that land through unjust means are so apprehensive and they don't really want to break even or probably give up much of the land that was stolen?
Hold on, that's a mindset issue. There's plenty in America that gets labeled as quote unquote stolen. Plenty. However, it doesn't necessarily always hold back every ethnic group that is in the country, that is even in the minority of the country. And so I guess the question is, it's a mindset. I don't know South African law enough. I don't know if it's a free market based. I really don't. I'm not just playing cute. But as a general operating...
Yeah, as it is right now, it's supposed to be a free market based, but the government is trying to make it such that they can repossess land from anybody. In fact, not just land, property of any kind, if they deem it useful for public use. If they deem it useful for public use, they can most certainly repossess it without compensation in some cases. So it is crazy. Individual property rights are threatened. Ladies and gentlemen, even if you do not own anything currently in South Africa, but for the fact that your future self is being threatened from being able to purchase and own things legitimately by this government, telling you that they're going to take your stuff, is ridiculous. We should reject that as South Africans. I do not know why people are so much in bed with this idea that the state must own means of production. What is even means of production in 2025? Because my means of production really is the camera, is the mic I'm speaking through, is this video from Oxford University that I'm watching. These are my means of production. You get what I'm saying? My job, my means of production. You get what I'm saying? These people always talking about land is the means of production. Come on, man. They just want things for free, and they have an innate hate for white people for some reason, and they'll use each and every reason they'll find just to take things away from them and make their lives difficult. For these people, it is not about working together. It is not about building together and developing our communities. For these people, it is about hate and segregation and revenge, and I don't know, man. It's ridiculous to me.
Principle. It's very bad to build a political movement around taking other people's stuff because you're obsessed with what you don't have instead of the mental energy to create what you want and what you think you deserve. We've seen this with a lot of groups to America, and America is a very interesting petri dish because we have a lot of people that come to our country with nothing. We have Cubans, we have Venezuelans, we have Colombians, we have Persians, and a rule is the group that complains the least and focuses all of their combined cultural energy on creation does really well over multiple years. That might not be possible in South Africa. There might be like no process to create wealth, but I would just venture a guess that market principles transcend borders.
The only people I feel for in South Africa really are the ones without skills, that the government has sidelined and is not doing anything to develop these people. It is creating a young generation of people without jobs and without any income. Bad for our country, not sustainable. And the government is constantly antagonizing and annoying the people who are paying taxes in South Africa, making them feel like the oppressor or something like this. If you are black, they call you a better black or a coconut or something like this. You get what I'm saying? It is crazy. They demonize the people who contribute positively to society and tell the ones who do not really have an income that no, the people who are oppressing you and the people who are doing you bad are those ones over there. They never point the fingers at themselves. It's crazy.
My postulation, and I'm glad you admitted it, don't say kill the Boers. Bad, we should say that. It has created real deaths and real harm. If I was in charge, which of course I'm not, I would spend all my time not saying kill the Boer. I would say, my people, get your act together. Let's work harder. Let's prove the Boer wrong. Let's start a business. Let's build families. One is driven in resentment and greed and envy and confiscation, and one is rooted in creation and entrepreneurship and optimism. I'd like to see the latter.
Well, it's very interesting you call it confiscation. What about if we call it probably reclaiming the land that was stolen back in the day?
Yeah,
but here's the thing as well.
Fair, okay, but can I please?
Which land was stolen? Stolen from who? As the Bantu people of South Africa are descendants, we descended from Northern Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. Coming here, we found the Khois and the Sans. White people came here in 1652 through Vasco da Gama and Jan van Riebeeck and them, taking residence in Cape Town, while they were moving from Europe, trying to circumvent and go to India for spices. They thought, nah, let us create a pot and chill right here and relax. They came here and created us. When we came, honestly, truthfully speaking, when we came, we started chasing everybody away from that land. I mean, black people of all kinds used to run away from Shaka Zulu. That guy was a conqueror. He was conquering lands. He was killing people. You get what I'm saying? Why do we want to start believing as if somebody stole something from us and, we are innocent in history? Really, as the black people, we are innocent. Really, we are so innocent, and everybody's oppressing us, and everybody is hating us. Everybody's out to get us. It is, get out of here with that mindset, man.
Please, okay.
Maybe it's what kind of understanding the value of land, right? Much of what happens with land is obviously, and I think a very prominent economist talks about this, a guy called Hernando de Soto in his book, The Mystery of Capital.
I know Hernando.
Yeah, he talks about it really. When it comes to land, the value of land is that obviously you can borrow against it. And we've seen for much of agriculture, commercial land.
Here's to those who stand by you through it all. Casa Lager.
Which is very expensive, really.
Legit.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So if you own land pretty much everywhere, you can extract a little value out of it.
So can I interject really quick? Let's try another moral principle. Is it ever right to punish a grandchild for their grandfather's sins?
Good question.
Not necessarily, but
well, hold on. Your
context. Context is very important.
They did not steal the land. Someone related to them stole the land. So why punish them? They look like them. They talk like them. They were related to them. But you are talking about actively punishing a human being that did not do the atrocity.
I'm not saying.
Some Wookiee somewhere is going to tell you that no, it's because they are benefiting from the theft by their current parents. Pure evil. You can hear that argument is grounded in evil. First of all, if somebody says that, look them straight in the eye and say, away from me, Satan, because you are dealing with the devil. He's trying to manipulate facts. manipulative. The devil is a deceiver. That's what we know. Praise Jesus.
I'm not saying we should actively punish them, right?
Okay, but you're saying, I just want to make sure I'm clear. You went back to these three principles: making wrong the justice, redistributing.
Yes.
So
correcting the injustice, I think.
So
is
correcting the justice, let's say, theoretically, it would be that we want some of this land to go back to Black South Africans. That's confiscation, right? No, you no longer own it. This group's going to own it. Therefore, you are punishing a grandkid for the sin of a grandfather. How is that morally defensible?
I think it gets back to the same thing. And how is it morally defensible if, say, the land that you own at the moment was stolen land and it has over time...
You see, the premise, the assumption here is upon that the land is stolen. First of all, the land is not stolen. If the land is stolen, then a lot of us stole the land from the Khois and the Sons in this country.
Created a massive disparity economically for much of the majority of Black people out there. So they could make the same argument as well.
Fair enough. And what we would say, but the code that we believe in the West, and South Africa can choose, that inheritance, something that you did not work for, and all of a sudden that you have, and that you are then nurturing, we're not going to take that away from you if you did not do anything individually wrong, because this is the difference. We believe in individual-based, not collectivist group-based politics. So they're saying this group took this from this.
We need that. We need that right here in South Africa, man. God bless our great nation of the South. Oh, what happened? What happened?
This group, therefore this group must get something else. We're asking, did that individual do anything wrong? That individual is a different person than the grandfather. So what is the solution? The solution is for Black South Africans to understand the injustice, and I'll grant you all that. I know nothing about the 1913. I should learn about it, and thank you for bringing that to my attention, right? But I do know that there was a lot of immoral behavior to the let's say not the acceptance, but the gaining of the land, right?
That's right.
I acknowledge that. Fine. The question is then what to do. And a general rule that has worked in America, and I'll kind of repeat my point, is the group, whomever it is, if they have a mentality and a mantra that is about creation and not about resentment, will succeed. This is actually really bad for even the people. Even if they got all the land back, let me tell you, it would not necessarily be a good thing. Number one, we've already shown that they can't necessarily manage it. It's very hard. The Boers have developed a method of farming in the last 100 years.
How do you justify that?
Well, because I just told you, and you agreed with me. I asked a question, which I think I knew, and you affirmed it. The Black South African farmers are not nearly as productive as the equivalent Boer farmers. They're not. The same land, same fertile soil. The farms equivalent are not as necessarily productive.
And that is not to say that the black farmers are not any good. You know, black farmers, I know exceptional black farmers really in this country. That is the truth. That is the bottom line. However, you cannot argue away the over 100 years of experience in terms of farming. In fact, over 300 years of experience in terms of farming that the Boer people have, because they are just, it's almost as if they are born with it. It comes naturally to them. You get what I'm saying?
But again, just as a general rule, and we can have clarity but not agreement, I think it's a bad idea to nationalize complaints into a political movement. I think it's very dangerous. And then the right, we fall into this sometimes too. In South Africa, it's even more dangerous to weaponize racial complaints, despite the injustices of past. It's a better use of time to talk about a victor mindset, not a victim.
What does he mean about complaints, putting them into politics? I think all politics is complaints, really. I mean, I think if you study the philosophy of politics, really, they'll tell you that fundamentally what politics is about conflict and resolution. So it's about complaining and fixing the problems. I'm not sure, ladies and gentlemen, these people, you know.
Victim mindset.
Yeah, I think it's easily said than done. That would be my kind of thinking.
But it's simply a mindset.
Yeah,
but the groups that embrace it in America and across the West, they succeed. The Jews have had a lot of crap thrown at them the last 100 years. They get their act together, they organize, they understand how to, create wealth. And again, I would say there are many groups that are parallel to that. So you want to make a final point? I don't know how we are in time, but
yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, again, we have clarity. I would like to see, of course, an end of the kill the Boers. But my hope for South Africa is one that is rooted in empowerment and lifting up and optimism, not being like, well, something bad happened to my grandfather, therefore it impacts me. It actually doesn't impact you as much as you think.
Yeah.
You're a free being with your own agency and your own ability. Was it wrong? Yes. Is it inhibiting? I would say no.
Yeah, I would say that I think cooperation is probably the pathway going forward. And I think breaking even is a good thing because the Expropriation Act actually does pretty much cover for that, where much of land that's not being used can then be shared. And
I will look into it.
I think that'll be a better way to go.
I'll read.
No, that's not a better way to go. The devil always got tricks. He'll tell you what, and just throw something ridiculous at the end. You know what I'm saying? But shout out to both of my brothers over there. I hope the Spirit of the Lord is with them. You know what I'm saying? Ladies and gentlemen, that was a great video. That was a wonderful debate. I actually enjoyed that. But the idea that in South Africa, we should go back to agrarian times where everybody and the imama is a farmer. We do not want that. We want to develop. I mean, we are living during the days of AI. AI, really. Not everybody wants to be a farmer. Some people want to be programmers. What about those? Some people actually want to be doctors. A lot of us want to be professionals and just, be left alone by government. These people always want to tell us about the land. Wara wara. Every day. We're sick and tired of this, man. We are sick and tired of this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like this one, please hit the sub button, hit the like button, open those notifications, and hit that join button if you really enjoy this channel. Ladies and gentlemen, we the people see the truth. Tell your friends to tell their friends to sub because we are here